Right, so today's job is to lay a deck here. It's only a small one, about 4 meters by 3 meters, and it's a real easy job that any DIYer could get stuck into. So first of all, I'll show you what I'm dealing with. See, there was a deck here that I laid probably about 20 years ago and it had rotted, so I've took it up and starting again. Now I'm starting with concrete flags as a base, which are fairly level, which is a bonus. So that'll support the weight of the deck. If I didn't have these, then I'd have to put pieces of concrete flag down or even concrete blocks as a base. You don't want your legs going straight into the soil. So I'm using 4x2s for the frame, and then I've got this decking board which is 125mm by 28mm I think, and it's double-sided so it can be laid any way. So I'm starting off by putting the weed membrane down. Now this is recycled from the old decking, waste not want not. Just keeps the weeds from coming through. So I'm just cutting these long lengths of 4x2 to make the back and front of the frame. One goes on the wall and the other one goes at the front of the decking by the patio. A saw like this makes the job so much easier. So these pieces of 4x2 are I actually bought them the right length, so no cutting required, which saved quite a lot of time. So I've just put one of the joists in, drill a couple of holes with a 4mm bit and screw in with a 4-inch screw. Now for the frame I prefer to use screws. You could use 4-inch nails, but I just think a screw gives a better fixing. Where the frame meets the wall, I'm putting the screws in on an angle which is just as strong. Now they're 3-inch screws they were. So here I've just packed up this length of timber so it's nice and level, as you can see. And that's ready now to fix back to the wall. Great DeWalt SDS there, just red plugs, fine, and some 4-inch screws. Plenty strong enough. Now I like to pack the timber off the wall a little bit, just so the air can circulate round, so I'm not going to cause any damp in the wall or anything, and bridge the damp proof course. So nice little gap just for the air to circulate. And just go along every 2 foot or so and banging another screw into the wall. So drill it, plug it, pack it and screw it. On most good tape measures, at the 400 mark or the 16-inch mark, they're highlighted. So this is the centre of where the joists are going to be, which is a handy little tip on a tape measure. So that's where the joist is going to sit, in the centre of that mark. So 400, 800, 1200, etc. So just mark every 400 centres all the way along. And starting from the same end, which is quite important, mark 400 centres on the other side. You've always got to go from the same side, otherwise your marks won't line up. And I'm just throwing in all the joists loosely here, just get them in position. So I always keep a couple of these wedges in my toolbox. They always come in handy for all kinds of things. So here I'm just using it under the joist just to keep it flush with the other piece, so I can bang in the screws and they're nice and flush. So always keep a few wedges in your toolbox, they always come in handy. So again, just a couple of holes with a 4 or 5mm drill bit and 100mm screws, and then where it meets the wall, I'm just drilling it in on an angle. Two holes. And I'm just putting in 3-inch screws here. And just repeat the process. Wedge it flush, drill it and screw it. So here's an important little step. Make sure that the decking's square. So I'm using the 3-4-5 rule. So multiples of 3 and multiples of 4 should equal a multiple of 5. So here I'm using 3 foot, 4 foot, which should equal 5 foot. And if it doesn't, just pull it until it does. That way you know it's square. So I've just marked a centre line across the decking for a series of noggins, which measured each gap and cut a noggin for each base. And they should all be the same size, but they differ slightly. So just using 100mm screws, putting 2 in straight and then 2 in at an angle. Now I could stagger the noggins, but I don't like staggering noggins. I think noggins should be in a straight line, and it doesn't take much more work to throw screws in on an angle. So there's that wedge again, just using it to pack up the decking, get it level, or pack up the frame and get it level. And these are just little blocks of cut to use as feet. So these will keep it nice and level, and I'll put enough in to keep it stable so there's no whip in the frame. So wedge it up till it's level, and then throw in a foot. A couple of 3-inch screws, plenty strong enough. So there's a bit of a sag in the middle of the decking. Just throw the wedge in again, get it level, and again bang in a foot. So I'm just putting in a few more feet just so there's no bounce in the frame. Now this is a step that a lot of people seem to miss or forget or don't want to do. This is damp proof course, which is normally used under bricks when you're building a house or a wall or whatever. And I just lay this across all the deck and frame, and it just stops the rain sitting on it, and it makes the frame last a lot longer. So the first decking board going on. Now you could screw these, you could nail them by hand, but when you've got a pass load gun or a nail gun like I have, it's a whole lot quicker. So these are just firing in, I think, the 63mm nails and the galvanised ring shank nails, which shouldn't pull out. For the gaps, I start off using the 3-inch screws, which give a nice 4mm gap, but as I carried on, I used a pack of nails from the pass load gun, which were the same size anyway, and they were just easier to grab in and out. But anything that's 4 or 5mm, do for a spacer. So this one just needs a little notch out of it for the fence post. So 2 little marks. Great DeWalt jigsaw. 2 cuts. And it slots in nicely. So it's pretty repetitive now. Just put in a board, make sure it's straight and nail it down. So here I'm just using my foot just to keep it against the one in front, which you know is straight. So they should all stay in line. So I'm nailing on every other joist. I don't think it needs it on every single joist. So instead of cutting all the decking boards to length, I've decided to leave them oversized, and I'm using this Lumberjack track saw just to cut them all flush. I think this way is a lot quicker and a lot more accurate and neater than cutting each one to length. I've just lined up the track with the frame underneath and trimmed them all to length. So a little cut out for the waste pipe, and that piece slots in nicely. Now I was lucky that the last piece fitted neatly up against the wall. I didn't have to cut it. So to hide the edge of the decking and the end grain, I'm just putting a piece of decking on the side, keeping it flush and nailing in. Using the hammer just to keep the board flush, and banging in more nails. Pass load gun really does save a lot of time. Now the front one, I could have mitred these here, but I find miters outside, especially in the UK, always open up with the changes in the weather. So I've decided to keep the front one flying over and just butt joint it, and it looks neat enough for decking. Right, so that's the decking complete. I hope you've got some tips from me, and I've given you the confidence to have a go of it yourself. So if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.